Thanks, Anita.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. I'm Luther Jackson, and I'm happy to welcome you to ApprenticeSIP. It's our great pleasure today to welcome Jill Armington to speak with us. She's the Director of National Partnerships at CareerWise USA, and she recently returned from Switzerland, where she attended the Summit Youth Apprenticeship Conference. And she was joined by some of our favorite apprenticeshipers, Annalise Goger, Christy Specht, and Vince Kohler. Now, of course, we would love to someday host an apprenticeship meeting in Switzerland, but today we're very happy to have Jill bring some of Switzerland to us. CareerWise has modeled its work on the Swiss youth apprenticeship model, where 70% of high school students enter apprenticeships, and has built a strong network in Colorado, and is now sharing its wisdom and experiences throughout the US, including California and the Bay Area. So Jill's going to make a presentation, and then we'll kick off the dialogue. But first, I've got an announcement. So we have our official summer vacation from ApprenticeSIP in July, and then stay tuned for August. And so at this point, let's do intros, and I will recognize you, and we just want a name, job title, and organization. So let's start with Jill.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. This is my first ApprenticeSIP experience, and it's fun having it be in the hot seat, but I look forward to other ones where I can be a questioner. So go easy on me and I'll return the favor. No, I'm really eager to be here. Like Luther said, I'm Director of National Partnerships at CareerWise USA, and a recent transplant to the great state of California. So I'm thrilled to be here to meet you all today and to really get into the weeds of all things youth apprenticeship and how we crack this nut as a collaborative.
Great, thank you. Annie.
Thanks, Luther. Welcome again, Jill. We like putting people in the hot seat right away. And then we get you in, but no, we'll go easy on you. We're so grateful you're here. Annie Tatnan, founding member of this wonderful group. I'm currently doing some independent contracting myself in HR and also teaching, and but just so committed to this space, and also as a parent of a kid coming up, I want to have more options for him out there to earn and learn. That's really a motivator for me. So thanks again, Luther.
Thank you. Anita.
Hello, I'm Anita Gay with Bayback Media. I have a colleague playing really loud music in the room next to me, so hopefully that's not too disturbing. It's lovely music. I am with Bayback Media. We're an arts nonprofit in San Francisco that has been collaborating with TechSF, OEWD on apprenticeships for the past 5, 6, 7 years, who's counting? But it's been a great experience, and we've learned a lot along the way, and I've really been enjoying these apprenticeship gatherings and learning from all of you.
Great to see you. Adrienne?
Hello, I'm Adrienne Summers, Executive Director of Apprenticeships for the American Association of Community Colleges, and I'm located in Washington, D.C., so it's a beautiful evening here, which is I'm sitting outside at University of Maryland tonight. And I'm currently working on a project. AACC has a grant supporting electric vehicles, so I'm always looking for connections in the electric vehicle space.
Thank you. Carl.
Hi, I'm Carl Cimino. I am currently retired, doing some consulting. I was the director of training for the Pipe Trades Training Center in San Jose. It was an apprenticeship program for plumbers, steam fitters, heating and air conditioning mechanics. A little consulting now.
Thanks for joining. Hi, Rick.
Hey, I'm Rick Raffey. I'm in Santa Clara, California, and I am focused on, I'm a consulting director with a project right now with the Silicon Valley Education Foundation that's specifically looking for pathways for students that aren't going to necessarily do 4-year, but underrepresented kids into computer science careers. And I'm really excited that Luther's pulling this together. I think apprenticeships is an untapped source that's going to explode in the next few years, and hopefully a few people in the room will have something to do with that.
Great, thanks, Rick. Randy.
Hi, I'm Randy Bryant. I'm the Dean of Career Technical Education and Workforce Development at De Anza College.
Good to see you. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, everyone. My name's Jeff Palin. I'm Dean of Workforce Innovation at Mission College, where we have, among other apprenticeships, we have a nationally recognized apprenticeship in transportation with Valley Transportation Authority, VTA, Amalgamated Transit Union, Local 265, as part of an overall joint workforce investment. We just went to VTA today and saw 35 apprentices graduate the classroom activities and moving into the mentorship. We also have non-traditional apprenticeships in childhood development and fire technology. And I am in the process. Luther attended, Carl also attended our meeting last Friday. We are in the process of planning to register an apprenticeship in mechatronics. And we are working with other companies, but Applied Materials is our target company, and they just registered standards with the Department of Labor. We're going after the California registration.
Great. Good work, Jeff. Mark.
Yeah, hi, I'm Mark Martin. I'm the Regional Director for Manufacturing Workforce for the Bay Area Community Colleges. There's 28 colleges, and I have been working on manufacturing apprenticeship for a number of years. Thanks.
Good to see you. Hi, Orion.
Hey guys, welcome Jill. Orion, founding member of ApprenticeSIP. I work for the City and County of San Francisco on the TechSF team. I also am a Summits alum, went years ago, and self-proclaimed apprenticeship nerd.
Thanks, Orion. Claire, did you hear me?
Oh, I didn't, but hi.
Yep.
I'm Claire Michaels. I'm the director of career at Rivet School. We are a alternative college for working folks who there are no tests, no papers. It's all self-paced with intensive coaching, and we offer a BA in communications, healthcare management, and business management. And I started our career program in about 2021, and before that I was with SF Made. And in terms of apprenticeships, I think it's exciting to see all of the sort of non-BA options, but really our students are just the same as people who don't have a BA until they get their BA, and they're already working and looking for work at the time they come to us. So I still feel like I'm in the same world, and thank you to Annie for inviting me to be part of this group, and nice to see some familiar faces.
Great to see you. Thanks for coming. Temple.
I'm Temple C. I'm just a member of Apprenticeship, and I'm here to see all your pretty faces and submit inputs if I have any. Okay.
Thank you, Temple. Good to see you. Hi, Mindy.
First of all, hi, Claire. I haven't seen you in a million years. I'm Mindy Aronoff, and my official title at Bay Area Video Coalition, now known as Bayvac Media, is Fairy Godmother, because I've just been there for so long. I only grant wishes. That's what I do there.
Thanks, Mindy. Cameron.
How do I follow that, Mindy? It's so true. So I'm Cam. I've been working on a platform called Apprenticeship.io that helps folks discover and navigate apprenticeships. And boy, oh boy, does it feel like every single apprenticeship event was today. There's like a lot of events today. So I'm ready to wind down and have some fun, I guess. Good to see you all.
Thanks for joining us. Before Jill starts, just one more etiquette question. Please use the raised hand function once the discussion starts, and we'll be happy to recognize you. And now, without further ado, Jill, take it away.
Awesome. Well, I guess a little ado as I try to share my screen here. So here we are. All right, we're live. Can you all see my screen at this point? Awesome. Okay, so I've got about 10 minutes or so, and I'm going to do my best to walk through a few high-level background pieces about CareerWise and who we are and why we exist. But then I really want to take that here into your backyard. So I'll talk about really why CareerWise started as an initiative in Colorado, how we've expanded to other communities across the country, and then really what's ahead for us based on our learnings in all of those communities, and specifically in California. How are we already engaging with a lot of your colleagues across the state, and what's possible in the Bay Area with collaboration. So first off, just kind of as a grounding, let me throw 100 words on the screen at you. I will certainly share these slides after today, but just want to ground in the vision and the missions of our really unique organization. So first of all, we were founded by an industry leader. CEO of Intertech Plastics, Noel Ginsberg, was struggling to fill the talent pipeline in his own advanced manufacturing business. Went to CEMETS, learned about the Swiss apprenticeship system, and after being a major doubter of what it could do, he was really transformed into a believer who saw that the education system that works best for our students and employers is one that values learning in the classroom and in the workplace. So we really started in Colorado seeking to develop a modern youth apprenticeship system across the state that would give students and employers access to this new talent strategy. And over time, kind of caught on like wildfire, and other communities across the country were looking to CareerWise for support and for technical assistance. And so with that, we expanded to include CareerWise USA, the team I sit on, to really build upon this energy in communities across the country, to fuse everyone together in this national movement. And I'll talk more about that later, but just the importance of a unified voice, a coordinated narrative, because we have a pretty significant dominant narrative to respond to, which is that you have to go to a four-year college to be successful. We know that's not true, but the system doesn't yet believe it. So this is really why we exist. And I'm going to move forward into that dominant narrative and see how it's working for us. So this is really a leaky pipeline. If you're kind of in the education or apprenticeship workforce development space, this might be familiar to you. I think if we're kind of zoning in on California, this system of, go to high school, graduate, get a four-year degree, works for about 26% of the population, but still, if it was a product, like it's not great. Doesn't have an awesome through line. And what happens to the other 3/4 of our youth who are not making it through this full pathway? It's a challenge, and it's one that we can't sit idly by and do nothing about. At the same time, and this is data from research done in collaboration with the Swiss researchers behind CEMETS, but when CareerWise Colorado was starting up, really the question was, okay, we've got students falling out of our education system. We have employers with extreme demand for talent. There's a mismatch happening here. Is it that employers should sit there and just kind of be consumers of talent, or can they play a role? And you can see on this fun graphic that based on employer input, the vast majority of skills are best learned on the job, with a few exceptions, really being, reading, writing, communication, arithmetic, the classics, but really building a foundation in schools. And employers want to be the ones really building those technical skills and the transferable skills on the job. So what does that mean? And where can youth apprenticeship come into play? And how do we do it at CareerWise? Here's kind of our overarching template of how it works. We have dimensions of the work, still happening when the apprentice is in high school. So that's what's really unique about our model. We're really pulling forward the career exposure and engagement to when the student is a junior or a senior in high school. So they're spending an increasing number of hours on the job, a decreasing amount of time in school over the 2 or 3 years that they're engaged in the program. And alongside the employer, CareerWise helps determine what is the external training that's also needed for this student to really have that earn and learn experience. And there's a lot that goes into it other than just coming up with, okay, here's the 3-year template and here's how you do it and off you go. CareerWise in Colorado specifically functions as an intermediary. And I know that word has been thrown around a lot, but there's a great deal of coordination. It takes a village, but it takes a coordinated village, and it takes an intermediary in the middle, oftentimes, to help ensure that the K-12 system, the post-secondary system, the employers, the students, the community, their families, other partners understand their lanes, understand the role they play, and understand what success looks like and how to support the student in getting there. So CareerWise recruits the students, engages with the K-12 schools. They're engaging the employers from everything from training plan development to helping them train their apprentices, to helping them train their supervisors, to providing dedicated capacity for the duration of the experience, and supporting and navigating, state apprenticeship agencies and the national USDOL for registering the pathways as well. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what CareerWise Colorado does. And so this model, kind of that why of the leaky pipeline, the learning best learned on the job, and this intermediary role, that sort of model is what's really been embraced by communities nationwide as well. So I'm going to kind of shift over to our nationwide engagement with a few minutes left here. So first off, and this is, we can definitely get into this in more of our conversation as well, but when we're talking about this national network, we're agnostic. I don't care if people are saying, oh, I'm CareerWise DC, or I'm CareerWise Michigan, or I'm that is something that we don't care about. What we really care about is that across our communities, across our partners, we are supporting local partners in creating systems and structures that respond to their local environments, communities, and the voice of their employers and stakeholders. And so we want to set up these communities so that there's employer success and the businesses are well equipped from a capacity standpoint to do the work that this takes. We want to grow, but do that strategically. So again, it's that infrastructure development for the intermediaries so they can in turn help their businesses. And we want to ensure that we're not just helping each community as a silo, but we're connecting them to this unified system where they can learn from and engage alongside their peers, all towards this goal that this is for all students, not the cream of the crop students, or not the students that K-12 said, oh, they have no chance of going to college anyway, we'll just stick them in apprenticeship. This is meant to be a desirable, equitable pathway for students across the learning spectrum. So this is where we are today. From one space in Colorado, we're really expanding with lots of geographic, political, rural, urban diversity, really working with many communities to make this work for their specific needs and to unite them as part of this national movement. And what are we doing in California? So with a lot of your partners and a lot of your colleagues, we are really trying to support and share our expertise from implementing in numerous geographies to our understanding of federal policy or legislative paths forward, understanding the challenges that practitioners face and how to unify them as part of a collective network. So we're really engaged in 4 main ways at the moment. One is with BACCC up in the Bay Area. We went in on a CAI, a California Apprenticeship Innovation Grant to implement a teacher's aide apprenticeship registered through DAS. And we're doing that in collaboration with San Jose Community College Hartnell Community College and Cabrillo Community College. And so that is something that we are currently in the throes of. Alongside California Workforce Association, we are working on an in-school youth apprenticeship strategy that covers everything from legislative strategy to creating a collaborative and coordinated set of proof points so that we can inform the broader California landscape. We're part of SIAC, the California Youth Apprenticeship Council, that many of you are likely a part of as well. And then through the PIA network, which is the Partnership to Advance Youth Apprenticeship, we have collaborated really closely with Charles Henkels and the Launch Apprenticeship team in the Inland Empire, and now as they are engaging with regional consortia across the state. So I'm going to pause there because I am kind of at my 10-minute mark. What I will be happy to speak to through the questions, and if anyone wants to know, we've got some data to share about our growth. We have more information about how we actually get into the weeds with our different partners and take them through a phased process to provide technical assistance. And then, if we think about where we're going moving forward, I'm happy to speak more about what we've learned, where we've made mistakes, and where we are definitely documenting these learnings to continue to improve as we engage more and more partners. And then as we look to the future, what are some key strategic anchors that we want to pursue moving forward? So all of that can come. I knew I flew through a lot of content, but I'm really excited to kind of get into the discussion with all of you. So Annie, I'll turn it back to you, or Luther, over to you, but thanks so much for your time. I hope I sailed through some things of interest and eager to get into the discussion.
Thanks, Jill. That was a great kickoff. 2 questions already, one from Adrian and then Jeff after that. Adrian, why don't you go ahead, please?
So I just wanted to know how you engage all of your parties, but I think you've answered some of that. Again, I represent higher ed with community colleges, and I know that there's several other community colleges on this. So we always like to have a seat at the table to help with the related instruction, and or as a sponsor, if the state allows opportunity with community colleges to be a sponsor.
Thank you so much, Adrian, for that question. I think that navigating the roles that stakeholders play in this system, I kind of flashed up a few visuals to cue myself, but I'm happy to kind of speak into as I answer your question. So as we're kind of zoning in on any one partnership or collaboration, so take Baltimore City Public Schools, for instance. I know you said you're in DC, so
Correct.
in the neighborhood. They just submitted a grant for the Maryland Works ESSER grant to really drive towards the state goal of 45% of students and in every district complete youth apprenticeship experience. That's huge, that's major, and they can't do it alone. So when we embark on any sort of collaboration with our partners, we kind of go through this phased approach. And one of the main initial phases is this assess and secure. So we're assessing the landscape and understanding who are the key players across the system in their backyard, across a number of different organizing priorities. So we're thinking about the education, the enabling and education environment. We're thinking about the occupation design, inclusive of who might be some external training providers, or if you're a K-12 system, or if you're a CBO nonprofit, who are the external training providers, the post-secondary institutions that might have related instruction that's aligned with the occupation pathways that we're designing. So that's really where that comes into play. And then it's in this design phase that we intend to bring those partners to the table to design the pathways. That was kind of a general response, Adrian, but does that help answer your question?
That does help. And I am familiar with, obviously, Maryland. I came from a community college in Maryland before I went to DC. So
awesome. And knowing you're in DC, like that's a note I'm storing away, because we too are engaged in DC. You've got a lot of our work kind of right in your backyard. So always eager for partners, eager to come to the table, because it's about getting the coalition of the willing and not the folks that you're dragging, kicking and screaming at this point.
Right, absolutely.
Thanks, Adrian. Next, Jeff, Orion, and then Rick. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot, Jill, for the presentation. Something that caught my attention, and I'm not sure how to phrase the question, but you mentioned early on that the employers are asking for the ability to teach in this on-the-job training model various of what we euphemistically call soft skills. And what I hear from employers is just the opposite. Bring us candidates who know how to show up on time, who know how to dress for work, who know how to listen and ask questions, etc. We will teach them the hard skills. So I'm curious, is this more about youth apprenticeship, because the employers that I'm talking to aren't necessarily attracting or in the youth apprenticeship space, or is this something that you have found in general, irrespective of the industry sector, that employers really want to be imparting these soft skills? Now, the reason why, another thing that I want to just add to that is that in our apprenticeship partnerships that we have currently, it's not only what I just mentioned, but we also see exactly what you're saying, that there's the, I heard this chief operating officer at Valley Transit Authority telling the graduates today, just remember 3 things, right? He said, show up for work, show up for work, show up for work. And he's talking to folks in the coach bus operator apprenticeship program. They finished their classroom work. Now they're going to be driving buses with a mentor. So I'm just curious about that, because when I look at this, yeah, thanks for putting the slide up. Suddenly realized you had it up. But when I look at things like reliability, problem solving, handling unfamiliarity, resilience, friendliness, health and safety, those sound more like the kinds of things that the employers that I've worked with in high tech say, they got to have that. We can teach them the other things. So your comments.
Yeah, I was essentially a bobblehead as you were talking, because I totally agree with what you're saying as well. And I think, one, I'm happy to follow up with kind of this source material as well. And we did a similar study when I was in Indiana of, employers saying what skills or where skills are best learned, where they're most effectively learned. And so a question that I have too is it that the employers say they're, willing to teach, or that they think, hey, this is where students or apprentices are gaining exposure that's gonna shorten their time to productivity, and they're gonna, maybe they hear about professionalism in the classroom, but there's no better place to learn that than when you are having to be professional on the job. Or show up on time. That's something that you've got to be able to do on the job. That's not really a great answer for you there, Jeff. I think that it's a blend as well, that a lot of this work, a lot of these competencies need to be foundational and need to be integrated into the schools. I think in a lot of cases, employers aren't satisfied with the level of skill coming out of schools.
That's right.
And so I wonder, to what degree is that factoring in as well, where they're saying, I'm not really trusting the schools to do X, Y, and Z. And I know that if I'm taking them through onboarding, I can lay down the foundational skills they need. I think it's very much a both and. It's how do we bring employers and schools together when we're developing these pathways so that they can kind of do hey, I'm the employer, these technical skills, no question, I've got them. And then it is those softer skills where it's look, if they can be started in the classroom, reinforced on the job, reinforced in the classroom, that's probably the most symbiotic. But I think right now we've got two institutions who are pointing at the other to do this work.
If I could just jump in, and there are several people in the room who are familiar with the California apprenticeship system. It sounds to me, and I'm just offering this as an observation, sounds to me that if we're talking about youth apprenticeship, we definitely are providing individuals, candidates who are quote unquote green. And therefore, you're absolutely right. It has to be a blend of both the employers in the work side, as well as the educational institutions on the school side, working together to develop those skills. What I do know in California, a lot of the time, education code allows us to hire non-district faculty who are actually the employers at the employer. The employer owns the standards, and their employees actually do the related supplemental instruction as well as the on-the-job training. And that is where you get that blend. So the classroom material, the coursework, the certificate program, we'll take, our mechatronics certificate program. We would look to the supervisors and managers at the employer to actually do the teaching at the job site. And so that would be the related supplemental instruction, the classroom work, and then they would have their mentors doing the on-the-job training. And I think that's less a youth apprenticeship than a regular, if you will, apprenticeship. So I'm really trying to learn a little bit more about youth apprenticeship as it were. And so thank you for this.
Thanks, Jeff. Great questions. Orion and then Rick.
Thanks, Luther. Yeah, thank you, Jill. I'm a huge fan of CareerWise, and to see you all as kind of the leaders of this youth apprenticeship movement across the country. And so we appreciate you taking your time to join our little mighty ApprenticeSIP group, and hope to see you return. From my understanding, high school graduation requirements vary drastically from state to state. And so whereas some states say you've got to have hours and seats, and some are credits and bell schedules and this or that, how do you all go about kind of navigating that, or approaching a new state that has different requirements from like a Colorado or something?
That's a great question, Orion. And Jeff, I've made a mental note to follow up with you as well on more things about, skills and where they're best taught. And I think we could have a whole conversation about that specifically. Orion, to your question on high school graduation requirements varying, as many states as we have up here, plus Alaska and Hawaii, like that's how many different requirements there are. And so if I'm, again, kind of honing in on Baltimore and Maryland, and even just thinking about the different definitions of youth apprenticeship as well. In Maryland, it's, hey, we want, X% of our youth to complete 450 hours, and that's a state registered apprenticeship. In Indiana, when they are listing their graduation requirements, it's, complete this diploma, complete that diploma, pass your SATs or ACTs, or, oh, you can complete a registered apprenticeship. But they're still also defining what youth apprenticeship means in their state. So a lot of this, the education requirements varying, et cetera, when we are going into a new state and engaging with schools, with companies, with whomever, we're having to, again, I'm kind of back to my phased approach here. The foundation building is really thinking about who are our stakeholders, who are on our core project team, what's our vision, what's our approach. Going back to that assess landscape piece and the enabling education environment as being one critical piece, that's where we really try to learn and understand what's in, what's out, what's required, what's a little squishier, where do we have wiggle room, where are things going to be very difficult. And so if we kind of are understanding the landscape within which we're existing, that is going to really help us. I'm looking for here we go. This how it works piece. This is very much a general template, but do you think that all high schools across our country today in year one are going to let a junior out of school for 2 full days to go be on a job site? Absolutely not. They've got seat time requirements. Not all of them can be early released at a certain time. So there's a lot of dissonance right now between what employers need and expect and what schools and their graduation requirements can allow for. So while this is kind of our jumping off point, back to your question, what do you do? And there are so many different requirements state by state, we have to flex. We have to adjust. And so in some of our partners, we've got students who are recruited when they're seniors, but they're starting on the job as apprentices after they graduate. So we're pulling forward career exposure and micro experiences and that full recruitment process to when they're captive audience in school before they're released, and many of them disappear. But we're still abiding by and working within the constraints that we can't yet break free of. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. And I just feel like, as you're kind of collecting data and a proof of concept on different models in different states, you can kind of use that to help inform those policymakers around why are there these certain requirements that are barring our students from accessing programs like this. So yeah, definitely appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of in follow up on that, and sprinkling in some learnings from last week in the Swiss CEMETS experience. It's kind of a catch-22 for us right now. Countries that have these VET or vocational education training youth apprenticeship pathways see a much higher degree of motivation on the part of the students to engage in the classroom, right? So letting them out into the world and have these work-based learning experiences where they're seeing the application of their learning has this virtuous cycle where when they're in the classroom, they say, wow, this has a lot of value and I can see how this is helping me on the job. But when we're kind of keeping them in the high school box without exposing them to careers, then we're spitting them out and they're not sure where to go. So it's, for me, it's a clear argument, but again, it's about unifying that voice and making sure we're, tightening the screws and levering power where we can.
Thanks, Orion. I've got Rick, Adrian, and Carl.
Great. So I am really pleased to see this Swiss influence. About 4 or 5 years ago, I went to a Silicon Valley Leadership Group education summit that was a very large event prior to COVID. And they had the former Swiss ambassador who was very much advocating for exactly this type of thing. And I've been, looking at what Luther's been doing and earlier meetings of this and just other partners in other parts of the state of California around technology apprenticeships. And so I'm quite curious, I think there's a lot to be learned. And I think like at De Anza, Randy's probably the CHIPS Act there's a whole initiative around here to get people learning semiconductor skills at the high school level to prepare them down this path. And I think that's going to carve a nice path for a lot of other industries. But I'm specifically interested in computing. I want to see people go more into computer science particularly, but even computing is good enough. And I'm curious how much that's actually, in the grand scheme of what CareerWise has done so far well, in terms of either establishing partnerships with, major technology companies or even not major technology companies, and where it fits in with certifications and sort of the things that community colleges and other CTE providers are trying to offer to these students to accomplish what you were describing earlier of getting that exposure that motivates them early on.
Yeah, I think that certainly as we're kind of focusing on California and where the opportunities are, the incredibly active tech industry and environment is like a natural space to go. And we're cultivating this Gen Z of digital natives. And so the kind of the symbiotic opportunities are pretty obvious. I think from a CareerWise perspective, we have, oh man, my team will be frustrated with me, but I think we have around 32 different occupational pathways where we've built out competency frameworks and rubrics aligned to different credentials. And I believe in the neighborhood of 20 to 25 are registered with the USDOL as part of our national program. And I would say, Rick, and keep throwing out numbers, and so I'll follow up with the exact ones. But I know around 4 or 5 of them are in the IT space. So software development, database administration, IT help desk, quality assurance, and probably one other one that I'm missing. So we have built out these pathways alongside employer partners. And several of kind of the early adopters of these tech pathways, most of them are in Colorado and actually in New York City. And a number of the large scale employers in New York City, including Amazon, including JP Morgan Chase, including Accenture, are actually hiring the junior coders or the software developers. We're seeing a lot of opportunity as well for employers who don't bill themselves primarily as a tech company, but all of our other, employers who maybe are a health insurance company first or a bank first, and to compete with tech companies for tech talent is a nightmare, especially when tech firms are now competing for talent amongst themselves. So to kind of make the pitch to Frontier Airlines that, hey, you should employ your own in-house IT support techs, junior coders, et cetera, and grow your own talent is quite a sell for employers, no matter what their lead industry is. But I think that especially as we consider how might apprenticeship and youth apprenticeship grow intentionally in California and in the Bay Area, it's really thinking about schools that already have, coding opportunities and an hour of code, but then how do we bring employers into the classroom through light touch experiences to get them used to the environment so that they can, build a full continuum with youth apprenticeship kind of as the apex.
That's great.
Did that answer your question? Or
yeah, that was a really good answer. I'm definitely going to connect with you on LinkedIn and try to have a deeper conversation, but this is a good start.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Thanks. Adrian and then Carl.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with a couple of additional comments in the sense that when you have related instruction providers, community colleges, other providers, and business, you have to have decision makers really sitting at the table, and you almost have to have someone that is innovative enough to really map out some different scenarios so they can see what it looks like from a different point of view. Most employers are doing things the same way that they've always done them, and you really have to introduce them to different concepts that may work. And again, because I'm from Maryland and was very active with a lot of things in Maryland before I switched over to a national position, Maryland requires 450 hours, as she mentioned, but you can do that during the summer. They will start them in the summer before school even starts. They'll work with them during the holidays so that there's every single county has different requirements, and every different county in Maryland will allow release time. However, if the high school has developed pathways with the local community college, many times a student can attend the community college to get the dual credit to allow them the release time in order to go to the employer for their apprenticeship experience. So just again, it's really looking at different things and thinking outside of the box, and sometimes absolutely mapping out options that may work. So just some additional comments.
Thanks,
I couldn't agree more.
Carl.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the conversation. I ran an apprenticeship program for plumbers and steam fitters, as I said earlier, for 20 years. And 20 years before that, I actually participated in it, and I was an apprentice and went through an apprenticeship program as a plumber. And in hearing your folks talking a lot, and a lot of the questions you have, it seems like you haven't spoken much to the building trades apprenticeship programs that have been doing this for decades. And a lot of the questions that you're asking each other, we've dealt with for, as I said, decades. And it'd probably be really behoove you to embrace some of these folks, get contact some of the building trades apprenticeship programs. Even though they are different in a lot of ways, they are extremely similar in a lot of ways. And just recently, we as this new engagement by the education community has stepped into this apprenticeship realm. It's been very gratifying for me to be working with Foothill Community College, Mission, and others. I know that the apprenticeship program that I was involved with, we actually got accredited through the Council on Occupational Education and are a college. We also, in partnership with Foothill Community College. In fact, I think, this Friday, 2 of our apprentices are now going to receive an AS degree just for completing their apprenticeship. I think they have to take just one online course, and they now get an AS degree without having to do all this onerous, general education requirements, which when our curriculum was reviewed, it was found that it all exists in there. It's not linear, but it all exists inside our curriculum. So, I'm really happy to hear all of you talking and this excitement about apprenticeship as, a new thing. But we've been doing it for a while, and we can help you folks out, believe me.
I'm hoping I can hold you to that, Carl. I know that, in California, with the level of activity of the unions and the very sustainable apprenticeship pathways that have been built out in the trades and building trades, construction, electricians, plumbers, et cetera. There's a ton of learning there, and there's a ton of institutional knowledge about how to make an earn and learn model work, not just for the apprentice, but clearly to have return on investment for the employers who are taking part in it. So yes, times 1,000. I would love to engage with you in that. I think specifically the ability to earn credit for the learning that you're doing at the work site, to articulate that into degrees, is going to be a really essential component of this work, to your point, so that, instead of cobbling things together in a system that might be clunky and too much of a barrier to apprentices, how do we make it more seamless for them, more efficient for them, to be awarded credit for what they're learning. So a lot of things there to learn from you and from the trades, and always amazing to talk to an apprentice themselves.
The biggest, I think, concern that the building trades apprenticeships had when all of this started to happen was that we spent years creating apprenticeship, and apprenticeship, it was the reason that all this attention got placed on apprenticeship was because it's a pathway that doesn't necessarily involve college, but it does create middle class workers. And the fear is that we don't want to see it get cheapened. That all of a sudden apprenticeship becomes this easy way to get some kind of accreditation, and then it's lower wage jobs that these folks are heading into. So the goal, I think, for all of us should be to make sure that they remain to be middle class job opportunities for these folks, or otherwise it's going to be disrespected.
Yes, super quick response to that as well. I think we're totally in sync. The CareerWise pathways, and they kind of go through this like green lighting process for, oh, if there's demand for an occupation or an employer says, hey, we need X role, we ensure that it's, you know, family sustaining wages, that it's not a dead end pathway, but rather it's the first step into a career advancement pathway. So one particular example is in the healthcare space. We're building out pathways with a number of hospital systems, navigating the age barrier that many of them have, but CNA, or you know, certified nursing assistant or medical assistant, these are commonly high demand roles. But Carl, to your point, that can't be the end of this pathway because it doesn't provide enough wages to be sustainable for that young person. And so when we're building these pathways with employers, cool, you can have CNA as a certification in the journey, in the pathway, but that is not the end point. That is the entry into the hospital experience. But in Indiana, we actually built out a path where the first certification was a CNA, but then they went into surgical technology. And the final step was their applied associate degree in surgical tech. So that's just one example where, like, I'm totally with you that we would be doing a disservice to our young people if apprenticeships are leveraged to move them into low wage or no path occupations.
Yeah, just two quick things. I don't want to, get under, monopolize this whole thing, but if the building trades apprenticeships also offered that, it wasn't when you became apprentice, you went through your apprenticeship, you did your 5 years, then you became a journeyman, then they could become foreman and general foreman. And now, in fact, the types of apprenticeships and many, many more, many of the other building trades, we now have, one of the employees there is a construction technology coordinator. And her job at the Pipe Trades Training Center is to make sure that all of the apprenticeship, all of the computerized software programs for construction, Plan Grid, Bluebeam, CAD, Building Integrated Management, all those are being taught there, but they're being taught as journeyman training courses, journey level training courses, so that folks can do lifelong learning. And then to answer one question that was put in there about, the discipline and the teaching of soft skills and all that, the employers play a big role by backing up the apprenticeship program when they attempt to teach their apprentices. That showing up on time is important, because there's a penchant sometimes when there's a good employee to look the other way when they do something wrong. Whereas if you have a tight grip on the apprentices early on, that's how they learn that they have to be on time every day for the for the whole year. And so the employers, part of their buy-in is so every once in a while they've got as they used to say over at Nova Luther, it's every once in a while you got to shoot a hostage, right?
I see the analogy, and yes.
Thank you, Carla. Great comments. Are there any other quick questions? If not, I have a comment for Jill, or a request for Jill. Okay, because we're getting close to time. I don't see anything. So Jill, as we're heading into our summer vacation, I'd like you to consider giving us a homework assignment, which is to think about how we can help your work and how we can mutually help going forward, so we can kind of sustain this conversation. And for instance, I gave you Jeff's email in the chat, but if there are other emails you need or other things, please let me know. We'd be happy to help, because you've raised a lot of great points, something we want to continue with. So thank you. This was brilliant. Really appreciate it. Thank you for bringing a little Switzerland to us. That was wonderful.
Can I say, sorry, one quick nugget, and I will follow up with a crisper homework assignment, but I do want to underscore this work that's currently happening here, this like coordinated proof points, the work with SIAC, the California Workforce Association work that is going on alongside Vin's, pulling in Annalise Goger, who I know kind of was an original ApprenticeSIP member as well, but coordination, unified voice, how are we pulling in parties from across the state, across each region to make really compelling arguments, because this won't work, this movement or, you know, youth apprenticeship won't work if it's a little pilot here, a little program there, one occupation here, one employer there. How can we learn from one another? How do we coordinate? How do we create kind of shared messaging so that we can make necessary legislative change where needed, so we can share learnings to accelerate how we're doing this work together. And really, you know, if the goal in California is 500,000 apprentices by 2030, then we all have work to do. And it's easier if we do it together. So I will definitely be knocking on doors and continuing the conversation with you all, because really, really enjoyed this. The great discussion, awesome questions and expertise amongst each of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Anita, do you want to take us home at this point?
Yes, I was typing furiously in the chat, but because I wasn't sure how close we'd get. But yeah, this has been absolutely fascinating. It's all going up on YouTube soon, so if anyone missed any juicy tidbits, you can re-watch the conversation there. I will put a link to that YouTube channel very shortly. In the meantime, I am scrambling about for a meetup link. So yeah, we are taking a break in July. It all says this in the chat. We'll be back in August on the 4th Wednesday. Please do follow us on Meetup. And yeah, I will put the YouTube link in the chat shortly, but this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Enjoy your summer months.
I will email out the YouTube link too.
Sounds good.
And Anita, feel free to send my email address out.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We'll do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Jill, you were fantastic.
You absolutely were.
Thanks, Mindy.
Great
It
job.
was a lot of content.
Yeah.
You
Have a
know,
good evening, everyone.
Carl, I loved what you brought up, and I think it would be fascinating to have kind of an apprenticeship focused on, you know, what the newer models can learn from the building and trades.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of meat on that.
I've been craving that. So not to put you on the spot, but to put you on the spot.
Hey, Carl, where are you?
I'm in San Jose, California.
But I mean, what's up with your background?
My new home office is in my garage, so I turned